Welcome into a new edition of Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford from the grounds of Oxnard, California. Kyle Youmans alongside Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com. And a busy week of practice and pads in the rearview mirror. The Cowboys had back-to-back practices with the pads on and a chance to kind of get that physicality underway. What were some of your takeaways from the week that we had here in California?
Well, I think, last year when you're going into this year, what are your concerns? Your concerns are the defensive line. You feel like the offensive line is going to be back and better. Well, right now the defensive line is the one that's playing better, but we're not seeing a lot of the continuity from the offensive line because of injuries and also just precautionary things. And I think those young defensive tackles especially are taking advantage.
We've talked about the offensive line a couple different times throughout, and we'll talk about the injuries later on, but they had a great opportunity yesterday to talk through the run game and to get some reps in the run game and establish the ground. What is Kellen Moore trying to establish whenever he comes to the running reps that he's had throughout the week?
Well, they say, and I still believe it, that Zeke is a premier running back. He's one of the best, and if that's the case, they have to establish that running game early in games. The best way to run out the clock is to get the lead. You got to do that. You got to score early in the game, and I think that's something that needs to be improved this year. Is don't just let Dak throw the ball around 30, 40, 50 times. So running the ball is going to be key. Getting it done early. But from what we've seen out of practice, it's still there's going to take some work there. They're working through things at center with Biotish. And then they're having different guards and tackles out there because they're being cautious with the veteran linemen. Yeah,
and we're going to talk about that once again coming up here in just a little bit. Now, Ezekiel Elliott looks nice, looks slim, looks athletic. Of course, he had a down year in 2020. Tony Pollard's kind of been flying under the radar a little bit. What is his role going to look like heading into 2021?
That's a great question, and I bet you we don't really get the answer because he's that dynamic player that – they don't want to put all that on tape. I think we're seeing a little bit here and there. There's walkthroughs going on now. That's the stuff where I bet you that the unique special plays to figure out how they're going to put two backs together. Is he going to be a receiver? All these things. So we can try to guess and speculate and all that, but I bet you some of the things that are very dynamic out of what we see out of Pollard will be things we see really in the regular season.
Establishing the run has been a priority over the last couple of days here in Oxnard, but so has fixing the quarterback position, the backup quarterback spot, because of no Dak Prescott at the moment. What did Mike McCarthy have to say about his injury going into the rest of training camp when we return with more Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford after this?
Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford is brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep, only at a Sleep Number store. And by Ford, built for Texas, built for you. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
The end of a busy week here in Oxnard, California with more Inside Cowboys Training Camp driven by Ford. And heading into the last break, I talked about the backup quarterback spot. Garrett Gilbert, Ben DiNucci, Cooper Rush getting more snaps with the absence, at least at the moment, of Dak Prescott during the throwing drills. What have you seen from the three quarterbacks in their second practice without Dak?
Well, I've said this many times. You get asked about those backup quarterbacks, and I say, how's that shoulder looking for Dak? That's really what I'm looking at. It hasn't been great, okay? Let's be honest. It really hasn't, and there's always going to be a drop-off there. But I do, it's not the first time we've seen backup quarterbacks, even starting quarterbacks, that somewhat struggle out here. Offense and defense are not always on the same level when you're talking about the install. There's so many guys moving in and out of the offense and defense of offensive line that it makes it kind of tough to get some continuity. To answer the question, though, Gilbert has his moments, has his throws. DiNucci doesn't have as many. I mean, he can zip the ball around, but it's he needs to work on some things. Cooper Rush has been okay, so it hasn't been great. But let's see what happens when we get to games. I bet you it's going to look a lot better, and I bet we'll have a better feeling about one of them, and my guess it'll be Gilbert.
That's a great point. And by the way, when Nick Eatman asked, Coach Mike McCarthy answers, Coach, how is Dak Prescott's shoulder looking right now?
When you it's good that you can catch a fatigue injury early. So I think this is more staying in front of what he has. So it's like anything in this game, when one player doesn't practice, it's an opportunity for others. So it's a really good opportunity for Garrett, Ben, and Cooper. So that's the big picture part of it for the quarterbacks. But Dak will still do all the drill work, and he'll be able to do the mock games, and but we're just really going to cut out the throwing here for probably a few days.
So Mike McCarthy pretty confident that it is not a long-term issue with Dak Prescott, and hopefully he's back on the field pretty soon, along with some of those other wide receivers that are in that passing game. Amari Cooper has missed all of training camp so far. Michael Gallup has been very limited, but underneath, the wide receivers still looking pretty good. Has anybody caught your eye?
Yes, I look at the receivers as kind of three waves. Obviously, you got your top three. Then you've got your middle guys with the Cedric Wilsons, Noah Browns, and then a lot of guys behind them. I think Malik Turner has jumped himself into the second group, and because of that, he not only is he making catches, but he's like a special teams player as well. He's got some history there. He played on the team some last year, and he's been a guy that Dak has thrown to a lot here. So, number 17, Malik Turner, he's a player that's really jumped into that group. Semi Fehoko has his moments of kind of being there, and I think you could put him in that group because of his draft status. He's probably going to make it. So those are the guys that I think have kind of stood out. I can't wait to see them on the field.
Malik Turner did play on the special teams unit during a couple seasons up in Seattle. Maybe he does fit in with John Fossil's group here in Dallas. When we come back, let's update the status on a couple of starting offensive linemen. What's next for Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, both being held out throughout the week of camp, when we return with more Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Final segment here of Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford. Alongside Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Youmans. And Nick, there has been some concern around the health of the offensive line. Stop me if you've heard this before. It was a huge issue last season for the Dallas Cowboys, but Zach Martin has now missed 3 consecutive practices. Tyron Smith was held out with a shoulder injury yesterday, an elbow injury. Elbow tendonitis was the official from Mike McCarthy. But is there really a concern? Is there an issue with the offensive line health?
I don't think you can call it a concern just yet.
Okay.
Remember, if they were all out here practicing in pads for the next 5-6 weeks, for what? I mean, we know what these guys can do. Remember, most of the NFL is now going to practice right now. They're starting training camps right now. So, Cowboys are doing it early, obviously, because of the Hall of Fame game. But with Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and La'el Collins, I think we all need to know, just get them ready to play Tampa Bay. And not everybody can have that luxury. Those 3 can do that. So it's just a balance, and I'm not worried about it just yet. If there was a major setback in one of them, maybe so, but I wouldn't worry too much yet.
You made me feel a lot better about that. Another thing that would make me feel better is offensive line depth. What have we seen from guys like Connor McGovern, Brandon Knight, Terrence Steele, who saw a lot of action in 2020?
Terrence Steele's battling with Ty Secchi for the swing tackle position. We haven't seen Steele really on the left side, but I thought he's looked pretty good on the right side. That'll be interesting to watch. And then also Brandon Knight and McGovern both rotate in when Zach Martin misses time. So, they have versatility. Knight can play tackle, and McGovern can play center.
Plenty of great reps to come for the offensive line, for the offense trying to get back and healthy, and, of course, this surging defense as they have gotten off to a really hot start in camp. No weekend off for these guys on the field. We've got practices Saturday and Sunday. You can join us for more Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford then. But until then, for Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Youmans. That'll do it for us.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford was brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep. Only at a Sleep Number store. And by Ford. Built for Texas, built for you.